Hey everyone. Have you ever heard a voice when no one else was there? Or felt like something was watching you, but nothing was there when you turned around? Tonight, I've got 3 terrifying stories. A haunted military road echoing with a child's cry. A jungle lab where the dead twitch in silence. And a forgotten base where one message keeps repeating. 5, 8, 2, 4, 7. These aren't just ghost stories. They're warnings left behind by those who didn't escape. Which one creeps you out the most? Comment below, and whatever you do, don't answer the signal. I first arrived at Redstone Air Base in the dead of winter, 2013. The cold was the kind that gripped your bones and didn't let go. Snow fell in slow drifts, and the sky always looked like it was holding something back. It didn't take long to realize this place had a pulse of its own, a strange rhythm that didn't follow any clock. My second night on shift, I was paired with Senior Airman Blake Morris, a guy with years at the base and zero interest in making friends. He wasn't the chatty type until we reached Echo Lane. We were patrolling the old storage zone, a massive, fenced-off area no longer in use, but still requiring checks. As we rolled past crumbling structures and half-buried shipping crates, Blake stopped the truck, killed the engine, and just stared out the windshield. "You know the story, right?" he asked, not taking his eyes off the road. I raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "That's where she fell," he said quietly, "right off the scaffold." I gave a nervous chuckle, assuming this was just one of those initiation jokes. "So what? She haunts it now?" He didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. We sat in silence for what felt like minutes. The air inside the truck grew heavy, like it didn't want us breathing. The dark outside felt thicker than normal. Blake didn't move, his eyes fixed on the same rusted beam. I followed his gaze, but saw nothing. And then slam, he slapped the steering wheel and yelled, "Boo!" I jumped, heart racing. He let out a deep laugh. I didn't. Something about the way he looked after, the way he kept checking the rearview mirror. It didn't feel like a joke to him, either. Then he leaned in and said, "Let me tell you the real story about the girl on Echo Lane." The story Blake told me that night still clings to me. He didn't tell it like a rumor. He told it like a warning. Back in the late 80s, Echo Lane was a bustling construction zone, rows of scaffolding, storage units, and concrete beams. Workers toiled day and night, and one of them often brought his daughter, Emily, to watch from a safe distance. One afternoon, Emily wandered off. Some say she was chasing a paper airplane. Others claim it was just curiosity. She climbed too high, too fast, and then she fell. There was no scream, just the sound of impact echoing through steel and dust. Her father quit the next day. Disappeared, some say. And over the years, the stories grew darker. Lights flickering for no reason. Footsteps on catwalks above, when no one was there. Toolboxes dumped from shelves by invisible hands. And always the same time. 3:14 a.m. That's when some guards say they heard her. A little girl's voice whispering, "Have you seen my daddy?" Soft, broken, right in their ear. One guy said he answered her once. He didn't show up for duty the next day. That's when the older guards started to relent. 1 patrols Echo Lane after midnight. Back then, I didn't know what to believe. But 3 years later, I'd returned to Echo Lane. And whatever haunted that place wasn't just a ghost story anymore. Blake kept the truck parked on that narrow strip of crumbling asphalt. No engine, no lights, just you and the dark. The air felt wrong, like it was waiting. He pointed again toward the tower in the distance, half eaten by vines and rust. "She fell from up there," he said. "They found her broken body on the concrete." I swallowed hard, keeping my eyes on the black outline of the structure. There was nothing but silence, deep, uncomfortable silence that pressed in on us. "People say they still see her sometimes," Blake whispered, "especially around this time of night." I nodded, pretending not to care, but my hand was clenched on my thigh. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see something, any move in the rearview mirror. But nothing happened. Not a sound, not a shadow. Just that damn silence. Even the cold seemed heavier here, like it had roots. After what felt like an eternity, Blake finally started the engine. The sudden roar broke the tension, and I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Nothing tonight," he said, almost disappointed. "Guess she's sleeping." I laughed, trying to shake it off. "You really had me going there." He didn't answer, just stared ahead with that same blank look, like he knew something I didn't. That night ended quietly, but the feeling stayed with me. I told myself it was just nerves, just a scare tactic. 3 years later, I'd realize it was a warning. 3 years later, I was no longer the new guy. I'd been through enough midnight shifts to know every back road and blind corner on base. Nothing scared me anymore until that night. I was paired with Airman Josh Taylor, a solid guy but fresh out of training. Our usual patrol SUV was in the shop, so they gave us an old cattle truck, loud, stiff, and slow. It was around 4:03 a.m. when we rolled toward Echo Lane for our final sweep of the night. The area had been mostly shut down for years. Just a few empty storage buildings and rusted fences, but protocol was protocol. Josh drove while I checked locks with a flashlight. We were laughing about something dumb, just killing time. When we turned onto Echo Lane, that's when it hit. The silence. Not just the absence of sound, a complete vacuum. The engine still rumbled, but it felt like someone had turned down the world's volume knob. The radio hissed quietly, then cut out entirely. I looked at Josh. He looked back. "Do you feel that?" I asked. He nodded, uneasy. "It's like..." The air got thicker. We passed the structure the one Blake had pointed to all those years ago. And then I heard it. Just barely. A low, breathy sound like a moan. At first, I thought it was the truck. Until it came again, closer. Wet. Guttural. Human. My blood ran cold. This time, Echo Lane wasn't quiet. It was waiting. Josh didn't wait. The second that last groan hit deeper, angrier hate jammed the gear stick and floored the gas. The truck lurched forward, tires spinning on loose gravel as we tore down Echo Lane like something was chasing us. The diesel engine roared, but somehow, I still felt the groaning, like it was riding with us. Inside the damn truck, Josh swerved hard at the bend. The cattle truck leaned so far I thought we were gonna flip. One of the back gates slammed shut on its own metal on metal, loud as gunfire. We didn't look back. No words. No breathing. Just panic. We reached the first gate. I jumped out before the truck even stopped. My hands shook so badly I could barely unlock the chain. Josh stayed in the cab, watching every shadow. The hinges screamed as I yanked the gate open. Back in the truck, Slamano, the gas. Straight to the second gate. Same routine. Same trembling hands. I opened it, waved him through, then shut it as fast as I could. Every second outside felt like something was about to grab me by the neck. Once we cleared both gates and hit the main road, it felt like the world snapped back to normal. But neither of us spoke. We just drove. Fast. Silent. Because back there, something had been with us. And I don't think it wanted us to leave. When we finally got back to base, we didn't say much. Josh parked, and we sat there for a full minute, hands still trembling on the wheel. We knew what we heard, what we felt. But part of me still worried. What if it was just exhaustion, sleep deprivation, a trick of the mind? We asked to speak to night shift supervisor Master Sergeant Dalton, expecting him to roll his eyes or lecture us on being too jumpy. Instead, he listened. Really listened. Eyes locked on mine, jaw tight. When we finished, there was a long pause. Then he leaned back and said, "I believe you." I blinked. "You? Do?" He nodded slowly. "Same thing happened to me. Twice. Once on Echo Lane, the other right behind the holding facility." He didn't smile, didn't joke, just stood up and told us to log the incident and get some rest. That was the last time I ever set foot on Echo Lane at night. I went back once during daylight, months later, just to prove to myself it was real. The structure was still there, silent, waiting. But even in daylight, I couldn't shake it. To this day, I never drive past that part of the base after sunset. And if I hear something groan in the dark, no matter where I am, I don't turn around. Because now I know some things don't want to be seen. The jungle heat was unbearable. Even before my boots hit the dirt at Camp Birchwood, the air felt like it was wrapping around my lungs, heavy and wet. The scent was worse, like rotting leaves mixed with sewage. It clung to everything. I was 19, fresh out of comm school, and had no idea what I was walking into. The moment I stepped off the transport bus, I could tell the other guys had been through things I couldn't yet imagine. Blank stares, nervous eyes, too quiet. They barely acknowledged me. That first night, I stayed in a tent with 5 others. Nobody spoke much, but I heard whispers about Bravo Squad, a unit that had disappeared weeks ago. Vanished, someone mumbled. Left their gear, their food, even the damn cards on the table. I didn't sleep. Not because of fear, but because something felt wrong. The jungle didn't sleep. It breathed, hissed, watched. During training the next day, one of the older guys pulled me aside. "Stick to the radios," he said. "Don't wander. Don't ask questions." His eyes didn't blink when he added, "And if you ever hear numbers repeating, run the other way." I thought it was a joke, but something in his voice made the hairs on my neck stand up. I was in a place where rules didn't matter, where things vanished, and no one dared ask why. And my story was just beginning. A week after I arrived, I was thrown into my first ambush. We were deep in the jungle, too deep. The trees swallowed the light, and the air was thick with sweat and gunpowder. When the first shots cracked through the canopy, we hit the dirt fast. But we couldn't see a damn thing. The firefight lasted minutes, maybe seconds. Time didn't exist out there. Afterward, we moved in to secure the area. That's when I saw them 3 enemy soldiers, bodies still warm, eyes open and empty, blood soaked into the roots beneath them. One of them looked barely older than me. Something shifted inside me. The jungle didn't feel like a battlefield anymore. It felt like a graveyard. The next morning, my CO pulled me aside. "You've been reassigned," he said flatly. "To what?" He didn't answer. Just handed me orders with one name at the top, Major Frederick Collins. And so began the part of the war no one talks about. They told me to pack light. At dawn, a chopper landed just beyond the tree line. No markings, no unit insignia, just a single man standing beside it, Major Frederick Collins. He didn't speak much. Tall, clean uniform, eyes like ice. The kind of stare that made you feel like he already knew what you were thinking. We flew in silence. Below us, jungle stretched endlessly until we dipped low into a narrow valley choked in fog. The rotors kicked up dust as we landed beside a cluster of makeshift structures camouflaged by vines and brush. No flags, no guards, just quiet. "This is Black Echo," Collins finally said. "You'll be our comms from now on." The air felt colder there, heavy with something I couldn't name. I followed him past strange, angular bunkers and tents that didn't belong in any normal base. No one greeted us. Everyone I passed looked straight through me. I realized this place wasn't meant to exist. The deeper I walked into Black Echo, the more wrong it felt. The soldiers here weren't normal. They moved like clockwork, precise, robotic. Not a single joke, not a glance, not a blink. Their faces were blank, expressionless, like they'd forgotten how to be human. I tried to greet one of them, a young guy cleaning his rifle. He didn't even flinch, just kept wiping the same spot over and over. Major Collins left me in a wooden hut near the far edge of the compound. "Wait here," he said. "Someone will come for you." But curiosity got the better of me. I slipped out and crept toward the large green tent at the center of Camp, the one with guards standing motionless outside. The flap was slightly open. No one stopped me. Inside, it was dim. The air thick with something sweet and rotten. I took one step closer. What I saw made my stomach drop straight through the floor. Inside, the light was low, flickering from a single overhead bulb. And then I saw them. 6 glass containers lined a steel table, each holding a severed head. Enemy soldiers, Viet troops, or what was left of them, their skin pale. Tubes ran from their necks into metal machines. A green fluid pulsed inside them, like artificial veins. Then one eye twitched. Another mouth shivered open, like trying to scream underwater. I staggered back, breath caught in my throat. This wasn't a morgue. It was a lab. Suddenly, a hand gripped my shoulder. Major Collins. His voice was calm but cold. "You were told to wait." I couldn't speak. He stared at me for a long time, then finally said, "You didn't see anything. Do you understand?" I nodded, barely holding down bile. He walked me back to the hut. Silent, unbothered. But I couldn't stop shaking, because those heads, they were trying to speak. The next thing I remember. Pain. Blinding pain. I woke up in a makeshift field hospital, ribs wrapped tight, shoulder in a sling. My head throbbed like it had been split open. A nurse leaned over me. "You've been out for 3 days." I tried to ask where I was, where Major Collins had gone, but she just smiled and said, "There's no one here by that name." I demanded to speak to my CO. He came in, looking confused. "You were on recon, Wells. Slipped down a ravine," he said. There was no special assignment, no Collins, no Black Echo. I knew it was a lie. But the orders? Gone. The mission log? Gone. No one remembered. Or maybe they were told not to. I looked down at the stitches on my chest and felt something cold crawl beneath my skin. They hadn't just brought me back from that jungle. They'd erased something. Something I was never meant to see. I made it back to the States 6 months later. The war went on. Then it ended. But that jungle never left me. Most nights, I'm fine. But sometimes when everything's quiet, I hear them. That faint, choking sound from behind my ears. Like someone, or something, is trying to talk through static. I've tried to find Black Echo again. No record, no coordinates, nothing. It's like the place was wiped from existence. And Major Collins? No one I've spoken to has ever heard of him. No unit, no badge, no face. But I know what I saw, and I know what I felt, that something in that tent wasn't science. It was control. Over death. Over memory. Over people like me. I've never told this story to anyone until now. If you think I'm crazy, that's fine. But if you're ever out there, and you hear numbers repeating over the radio, run. Because if they find you, you won't remember either. The trees swallowed the road miles ago. Now, only frost-covered brush and the low growl of our armored transport reminded us we were still moving. We'd been dispatched at Dawn Echo Ridge Base had gone silent 3 weeks earlier. No calls, no movement, just nothing. Until yesterday. A weak transmission crackled through the northern relay tower. 5, 8, 2, 4, 7. 5, 8, 2, 4, 7. Over and over. Cold, mechanical, no voice. No emotion. I rode shotgun next to Sergeant Davis, who hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. In the back, Corporal Jenna Lee fidgeted with her headset, trying to trace the signal. "Still the same?" I asked. She nodded, not looking up. Doesn't even sound human. We turned off the gravel path and rolled toward the abandoned compound. The fog thickened instantly, like it had been waiting. It clung to the vehicle, dulling even the engine's rumble. As the main gates came into view, bent and half open, I felt it, that pressure, like the air itself didn't want us here. Davis killed the engine. "You all ready?" No one answered. We stepped out into the mist, weapons drawn. The forest was dead silent. Whatever happened to Bravo Unit, we were about to walk into it. Sergeant Davis quiet, sharp, the kind of man who'd seen too much and spoke too little. Corporal Jenna Lear, comms tech, barely out of training but already smarter than the rest of us combined. And me, Staff Sergeant Lucas Reeds, 17 years in. I'd been through enough to know when something felt wrong. And this place felt wrong the second we stepped out. Even the wind seemed hesitant, like it didn't want to disturb whatever slept here. We moved in formation through the front gate, rifles ready, radios crackling static. Jenna muttered under her breath. No signal bounce. It's like this place is sealed off. Davis didn't reply, just kept walking. The deeper we went, the more I felt it. Bravo wasn't just missing, they'd been erased. 3 weeks ago, Bravo unit vanished without a trace. No distress call, no flares. Just gone. Then, 2 nights ago, a broken signal bled through the comm towers at Fort Conley. Not a voice. Just a mechanical loop. 5, 8, 2, 4, 7. 5, 8, 2, 4, 7. No origin point, no encryption, no human cadence. They thought it might have been an emergency beacon. But after hearing it for myself, it didn't feel like a call for help. It felt like a warning. Now we were the ones sent in. Find out what happened. Retrieve intel. Extract survivors if there were any left. But with each step into Echo Ridge, I couldn't help thinking, maybe Bravo didn't want to be rescued. Maybe they just wanted to keep something else from getting out. The fog thickened as we rolled in. By the time we reached the perimeter of Echo Ridge, visibility had dropped to feet. The main gate was already open, bent inward, like something had forced its way through. Inside, the place looked abandoned, but not empty. Chairs overturned. Papers scattered like a storm had passed through. Doors left swinging. Bullet holes in the walls. Blood, but no bodies. I stepped over a broken clipboard, still marked, Bravo. Daily check. Jenna whispered behind me. They left in a hurry. Davis scanned the hallway with his rifle. Number, they ran. The silence was heavy. Too heavy. This wasn't a base that had shut down. This was a place that had panicked and lost. Whatever had happened here hadn't left yet. The control center was cold. Too cold. Dust floated through the stale air. Terminals were still lit, screens flickering with static and half-loaded diagnostics. And then we heard it. 5, 8, 2, 4, 7. A voice, but not a voice. Metallic, hollow, looping from every speaker, like the base itself was whispering it. Lee leaned in. There's no input source. It's playing from inside the system. I scanned the room, no bodies. Just blood smeared along the floor, trailing toward a dark hallway. Fingernail marks on the tile. Something had been dragged. I didn't realize I was holding my breath until Davis spoke. Whatever happened here, they didn't just die. He stepped toward the hallway. They were taken. The numbers kept repeating. 5, 8, 2, 4, 7. Over and over, we found them in the lab. Bodies. Lined along the floor like discarded equipment, faces frozen in terror. Eyes wide, mouths open as if they died mid-scream. But there were no wounds. No signs of struggle. No blood. Just fear. Lee stumbled back, whispering, "What the hell happened to them?" At the far end of the room, slumped against the wall, was a man in uniform. Commander Haskins. His hands were clenched around a soaked field journal. I pried it free. Most of the pages were ruined, unreadable, except one. A single line scribbled in shaky ink. "They're coming for us." Davis stepped back. "We're not alone." And for the first time since we arrived, the numbers stopped. We didn't speak, we just moved. Davis gave the signal, and we turned back toward the main entrance. But the fog was thicker now, almost solid. Our flashlights barely reached 5 feet ahead. Then we saw it. A figure, standing still in the mist. No sound, no movement, just there. "Is that?" Lee whispered. The shape tilted slightly. Not walking, gliding. I raised my rifle, but something in my chest screamed not to shoot. Davis whispered, "Move. Now." We backed away slowly, but the figure didn't follow. It just watched. And in that suffocating silence, I realized something. It wasn't the fog hiding it from us. It was hiding itself, and it knew we were watching. We didn't speak, we just moved. Davis gave the signal, and we turned back toward the main entrance. But the fog was thicker now, almost solid. Our flashlights barely reached 5 feet ahead. Then we saw it. A figure, standing still in the mist. No sound, no movement, just there. Is that? Lee whispered. The shape tilted slightly, not walking, gliding. I raised my rifle, but something in my chest screamed not to shoot. Davis whispered, "Move, now." We backed away slowly, but the figure didn't follow. It just watched. And in that suffocating silence, I realized something. It wasn't the fog hiding it from us. It was hiding itself. And it knew we were watching. It's been months, but the numbers still come back. Sometimes in dreams, sometimes in static, when I'm alone with the radio. 58247. Over and over. Like a drumbeat beneath the world. No one ever explained what happened at Echo Ridge. The report was buried. Our mission? Classified. Lee left the military. Davis doesn't talk about it. And me? I still wonder if we brought something back with us. Something that doesn't belong on this side. Sometimes I think Bravo didn't vanish. They crossed into something else. Something we were never meant to touch. And those numbers? They weren't coordinates. They weren't code. They were a door. And now that we've heard them, maybe it's still open. So, what do you think? Have you ever experienced something like this? A voice you couldn't explain? A place that felt wrong? Or a moment that still haunts you? If you have a true creepy story or know someone who does, drop it in the comments. I just might tell your story next. And if you're still hearing the numbers, you're not alone.